Can you please state your name and date of birth?
My name is Naomi Nightingale Jr., and my birthday is August 24th, 1946. I've actually been coming to Venice since I was born. I've had relatives that lived in Venice, my aunt and uncle, my grandmother, and my mom and the rest of my siblings. We lived in Santa Monica. We moved to Venice permanently in 1963 after the Santa Monica freeway came through the African American community in Santa Monica and displaced a lot of the homeowners and renters. I remember going to Broadway Elementary School. I remember going to Oakwood Park during the summertime for summer crafts and other summer camp activities. I remember lots of friends that I made in Venice over the years that I'm still friends with today. I enjoyed my friends. I enjoyed the activities. I enjoyed the community because everyone knew everyone, so you couldn't go anywhere without being known. So it was just a lot of fun. As a child, I didn't have any worries. I also remember that there was a big flood in Venice. I think it was around 1955, something around there, where our furniture was floating around in our living room, and people were, there weren't any streets, they were covered. People were moving around in boats and canoes. And I remember my uncle carried us out of the house on his shoulders and in his arms. It was a flood. And that was before Venice had the drainage system, the infrastructure that it has now. Initially, we were living on Vernon Avenue, and we lived in what I call Venice proper for African American people. We did not know the area as Oakwood. It was simply Venice to us. But it was a restricted covenant area where Black people lived by regulatory restricted covenant requirements. It was a red line area. The civil rights movement was at its elevating edge at that time, 1963, 64. And my involvement in the community heightened after the 1965 Watts riots. And at that time, the federal government made an offer to urban communities of, they would fund summer crash programs. That was what it was called, the summer crash programs. They would fund these programs during the summer, a 3-month period, and it was their way of providing some financial resources in the communities to try to quell any potential uprisings. So I was very vocal. I was asked by one of the community leaders, who was Robert Castile, if I would put my protest to paper and we would move forward in writing a grant for the summer crash program funds. I wrote the grant, we got the money for the 3-month period, and we started an organization called Project Action. And Project Action was a job training, job development program where we rented a building on, at that time it was West Washington Boulevard, it's now Abbott Kinney. We rented a building there and we provided job training, helped people fill out job applications. And then we started a program within the Venice community called the Beautification Program, where we put together teams of people who would then go from door to door in our community and ask people what were the kinds of things that they would like to see happen in the community that would beautify the community. People who participated in those walkabouts were paid for their work, and that was a way that we created jobs with the money that we got from the federal government. During that period, a lot of activism. UCLA Urban Development Program came down and helped with some community organizing. We had conferences at Lake Arrowhead and up in the Santa Barbara area where we talked about community development. We got the community more engaged in the kinds of services and things that were needed in the community. And the most successful thing was the building of the 15 community housing buildings that are currently still available. Venice was evolving as a developing community where you didn't see a lot of vacant lots, you didn't see a lot of rundown housing. You saw the area growing and developing, but still being very self-contained. It was always the area that I'm speaking about, that we now call Oakwood, was always predominantly black. There were other cultures and races within the community, Mexican and some white people that still lived in the community, but predominantly black. So the activities, the interactions, the discussions between Santa Monica and Venice, those two communities where there was predominant African American people, remained very close. Many people that moved here from the South either moved in Venice or moved to Santa Monica or lived in Venice and spread into other areas. The First Baptist Church of Venice was started by the Venice community with some people who lived in Santa Monica as well. The same is true for what was the Monday Women's Club, which was a women's club started by African American women who lived in Venice predominantly and Santa Monica. It's a historic landmark at this point on 6th and San Juan. It's a very dilapidated, rundown building that has graffiti all over it, but it is a historically designated site, and our intent at this time is to start a 501c3 and start raising money so that we can restore that women's center into what it used to be to the community. My perspective is really my hope and my dream and my aspirations, that particularly for the African American community, that there is recognition of the contributions that were made here as a part of the Oakwood community. And unfortunately, the recognition of those things were not embraced at a time when we could have saved some of that tradition and some of that architectural and socio-financial contributions there, but it's not too late. But I hope that we can reach the hearts and minds of people that are moving into the community to embrace some of that neighborliness, to become a part of the neighborhood, the community, and not set it apart and not be separate from it. But there is a heart and soul of the Venice community that we would hope that people would become a part of and not make themselves separate from. And the last thing I'll say is probably the biggest example of that effort now is the Oakwood Park, which is a people park, but there's a big effort on the part of some people to make it a dog park. And so why should we have that fight? That should not be a fight that we should have. There should be recognition that there is a dog park on Westminster and Main, and that Oakwood is a people park, and can we respect that? So to me, respect is the big issue that we need to work on. So thank you for inviting me here today to speak about the issues that are on my heart. I appreciate it.